Good evening, everyone. Thank you all for joining today. Before we introduce today's speaker, I would like to tell you all a little about the Career Talk series. My name is Shiv Kapoor and I'm in the 12th grade at Head Start Educational Academy. We, my sister and I, saw the lockdown as a great opportunity to expose students and everyone else, not only in India but around the world, to a spectrum of careers. We hope to do so by bringing professionals from various domains to share their experiences and knowledge with us. Here's a little about our 15th speaker, Mr. Abhijit Bhaduri. He is an advisor to numerous Fortune 500 companies, Indian conglomerates, and startups on leadership styles, talent strategies, and designing on organizational culture that digital transformation for rapid growth, and is described by Forbes as India's most interesting globalist. Quoted by LinkedIn as an HR expert on issues of talent strategy, Mr. Abhijit is Asia's #1 expert on learning and among the 10 best in the world. He blogs for Economic Times and Times of India. He has also been writing for People, Matters Magazine, Business Line, and also for Harvard Business Review, Forbes, HBR Ascend, and for Duke University's publication Dialog. His podcast, Dreamers and Unicorns, has been the #1 business podcast as rated by Apple and was recently voted among the top 100 podcasts. Apart from writing, he has led HR teams for Microsoft, Colgate, and PepsiCo. Here are a few housekeeping rules to keep in mind before we begin. Kindly remain muted and keep your videos off throughout the session. Please do not annotate on the screen. And if you have any questions, please post them in the chat, not directly to the speaker, but to everyone. And as moderators, we will pose the questions to Mr. Abhijit Bhaduri on your behalf. Mr. Bhaduri, you may take over from here.
Hi, everyone. Good evening. Okay, so I can't see my screen. Just one second, I can't see the screen. Yeah. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to start by sort of talking, with a disclaimer, which is the disclaimer is that, I think anybody who has known the shift of my career would laugh at my sharing any advice on career, because I firmly believe that a lot of what has happened to me has been the result of a lot of luck. And I think the advice of people who then were kind enough to take a chance on me, and therefore I think what I, got opportunities were not because of what I did, but because of the fact that people took a chance on me. So I really want to sort of state that up front. But I think I want to preface the entire thing by saying that, when you think about careers, you have to think about 3 design principles, which I will share about. The first is that, there are factors which are within your control and there are factors which are outside of your control, which means that, things like the economy going through a lockdown, during the pandemic is precisely the time when some people are entering college. This is a factor outside of your control. The kind of family you were born in, the opportunities that got created or that you missed because of that, so that's a factor outside your control. The kind of country that you were born in, the rules and regulations around that, the opportunity to travel, a lot of these factors are not things that you can control. They are factors outside. So for the purpose of this conversation, we are going to sort of look at what are some of those factors that you can control, because that's really, in effect, the only thing that you can do. So when you look at the dictionary definition of career, it doesn't actually talk about this whole thing of how you earn your money or anything of that sort. It actually is your journey through life. So that's the dictionary definition. And that's something worthwhile to keep in mind, that the journey through life involves much more than the skills and knowledge and all of that. And it encompasses all the things which are personal. And therefore, a lot of what we are experiencing today, as the world is experiencing a shutdown when people are working from home, in many ways is an opportunity to explore that. But the third piece is that we are probably going to see the start of what I define as career 3.0. Um, so career 3.0 means that there has to be a career 2.0 and there has to be a career 1.0. So what were those? The first one was, there was a time, perhaps a few years back, a few decades back, where people really started with one employer and kind of really emerged at the end of it. They retired there. So there was one employer, and you joined a company and you retired from there. The second phase was when a number of times you see people who may have been really, qualified or trained in something. So an engineer who decides to become a stand-up comedian or start their own restaurant. Those are people who are actually doing career 2.0, which is you are trained and you get certified in something, but you decide to leave that and do something else, which is completely something you are not trained in. You pick up the skills on your own. And that's an important piece to keep in mind, because the extent to which you are able to do that is actually what brings you to career 3.0, which is you have a bunch of skills, which comes from partly what you've learned through a college certification or your education that gives you a certain kind of a skill level. But you also have a number of hobbies. So for example, I like to draw, I like to write. These are my hobbies. You sort of bring your educational qualifications, your hobbies, your passions and everything, and you sort of build the opportunity to learn based on that. So there are writers who today talk about what is called a passion economy, which fundamentally means that you can create a real full-time career based on things which were earlier considered to be sidelines, your side hustle. So if you drew, when I was growing up, I was always told that, look, don't think that you can do that for a living. Those little doodles in your notebook, that doesn't get you anywhere. So you better study. And I think a lot of that has changed. So very quickly, in terms of what I started off doing was, I did my undergraduation from SHRM College of Commerce, so SRCC Delhi University. I did a degree in economics. But before that, I want to tell you that I chose economics not because I was keenly, actively involved in wanting to be an economist, but because I knew what I didn't like. So in school, when there was a choice of, deciding between science, arts, and commerce, which is a typical thing that, students do, my first reaction was that it is so unfair that, you really need to start choosing a path when you have no idea about careers, and a lot of these things that you will eventually do have not even been invented. In your case, certainly it has not been invented. But for most people, you don't know what you like. You've been told that, you're good in math, I think you should do engineering. Or you write well, I think you should do literature. Or you think you're good in accounting. So those are the ways in which we have traditionally done that. Or else we kind of decide that, look, we decide that when we are looking at people around us, they play a big role. So if you are born into a family where you are told that, well, in our family, we already have this business and you just take over, that just makes life simpler. But in many cases, it also constrains, because it's not necessary that an actor's son is going to do well as an actor. It may not. In fact, most of the times, there are studies done on professions which actually say that for many of these, where your skill is very independent, it's not inherited, then in which case people don't really do well when they take up their parents' profession. So that. However, there are skills where there are professions where the network of your parents, which means, let's imagine, just for simplicity, that, my parents do something and they have 4 clients. These clients are used to seeing me and they have a lot of trust. So when I take over that job, the client system automatically transfers into my client system. So I don't need to really go out and start building a client from day one. I already inherit those relationships. So that's an exception. But this is really the 3 or 4 things. But I think we are actually going to see a time where the people who will succeed are going to be more like digital nomads. So we know what are nomads. So these are people who are not really fixed into one particular place. Digital nomads are people who leverage digital connectivity and technology. So they work out of their smartphone and they hop from country to country. In the month of June, which is last month, we actually see that Estonia, this country in Europe, has actually created something called a digital nomads visa. And what allows people to actually work in any other country but have residency in Estonia. So those are some of the opportunities which are coming up. But even if it was not that, it is something which is really beginning to show up in multiple places, that the opportunity to become a digital nomad means you learn new skills on the fly. So, I know a digital nomad who started off being a photographer, then learned coding, so started to, create her own blog, then learned to write a book, published it, did really well, and now earns a living out of doing just that. So those are digital nomads, and has done many things in between. Starting from doing really blue collar work. So traveled into a country, discovered that there are people who are looking for farm labor, and here is a person who says that I knew nothing about farm labor. I just thought, okay, it's manual work. I'm going to learn to do it, and they've done that. So there are many models like this which you can see, which are coming up. But when I started, I landed up doing economics as the first step, because I didn't really like science. It just sounded, engineering and medicine all sounded really super complicated, and it was not something that I thought I'll be able to handle. So then I wanted to do arts because I always enjoyed writing. But then in my school, I was the only guy who signed up for the arts class in 11th. Consequently, it was not offered. They cannot offer a class just for one person. So I landed up actually joining commerce. So this is the first principle. Remember, I said that there are factors outside of your control. I did what I could. I signed up, but then I landed up, getting shunted into commerce. Then I realized that, oh my God, I mean, this is something really tough. And I decided that, okay, of that entire thing, the only thing I liked vaguely was economics. When I joined up in college to do economics, I also discovered that the economics that I studied in school was a very simple version, and it sounded a lot more complicated. I went through my college, I cleared my college, and then I thought that, okay, one thing I'm very clear. So many people decide things based on what they are good at or what they enjoy. I decided that I'm not going to do economics because I didn't, I was very clear what I didn't like. But the challenge was I was not clear about what I liked. Yeah. So, so somebody told me that, there's this course in XLRA Jamshedpur, and it is all about well, it was called personnel management then. So you must do personnel management because, you're good in working with people. I had, been a college, secretary for cultural affairs and all that. So they said, you will enjoy doing that course. I had no idea what that course was all about. And then a lot of people said, but why don't you do marketing, or why don't you do finance? So I had just got that one line fixed in my head, which said that, you will enjoy doing personnel management. So I signed up for it. I did that. I kind of tended to like quite a lot of it. Not entirely. But then when I moved from job to job, I first did, the first thing that happened was personnel management itself, that field, the field itself changed. So it became human resources, so earlier it was, it was about labor welfare, etc. Then it became personnel management when I finished. By the time I finished, it had already started to move towards human resources. So that was the second shift that happened. So I sort of moved along with that. And then eventually HR started to become closer to talent management, which is where it is. And now, once again, talent management itself is getting shaped by technology, that you can use all kinds of technology to do things. So that's really the other shift that is happening. So one of the things that, I wanted to talk about was that you don't necessarily, where you start, that field will evolve. So human resources, personnel management became human resources became talent management is now getting morphed into, things that you bring in technology and do. And through all of that, I discovered I was getting closer and closer to what I really enjoyed doing. but then there is a parallel track I want to bring it in. So the parallel track is I actually used to do a lot of writing in school and college. I used to draw a little bit here and there. And all through my career, as I worked in different companies, I pursued my interest in this when I did a little bit of radio when I was growing up in college, a little bit of television. And later on, when I got a chance to live and work in another country, I ended up doing a radio show, which I immensely enjoyed doing, which eventually, landed up now in this current day and age, it landed up taking the shape of a podcast. So one of the things I discovered was a lot of things which you sort of really don't see a connectivity, a lot of things that you pursue, you don't actually know how it is going to be used, and it all sort of adds up somewhere at the end. So today I, monetize my writing, I monetize my drawing, I monetize my speaking, all of that. But I don't think I started doing that with that same sort of assumption. So when I announced the talk, I said it's all about discovering dark chocolate. What do I really mean by that? The first thing is that, when you imagine that you are standing at a buffet table, you have a bunch of different things which are offered to you. You start with appetizers and salads and do all that stuff. And then you move on into, maybe the main course. And then eventually, for me, I suddenly discovered one day that, my God, I think I have a sweet tooth, because I really enjoyed the dessert section so much so that I would hurry through. If I had a choice, I would sort of just nibble at, the appetizer and the main course, but I would really focus on the dessert. And then one day in one of the places where I was having dessert, I discovered that they had served chocolate. And it was dark chocolate. And when I had that, I somehow got a feeling that, man, this is it. This is really what dessert should be all about. So I left everything else that was there. And then I actually focused only on dark chocolate. So what do we learn from this? So if you see those drawings there, when I sort of really look at the different stages that I've gone through, you start by saying that, I really experienced a lot of confusion there. And then I kind of also, felt dejected that maybe I'm doing something wrong. I'm not sure of myself. And then as different opportunities came up, I tried and traveled along with many of those places, and finally stumbled upon that dark chocolate phase. Currently, what I do is my dark chocolate phase. So I think it really works like a funnel. You may or may not start off doing that, but eventually you will be able to really think through what matters the most to you. So your career is really your journey through life, as I said. So, things as they evolve. So don't sort of ignore the things which you are doing on the sidelines, the little project that you did. It may not all immediately get you a return. So one of the big mistakes is that we always think that, what I'm doing is really how I'm going to earn a living. It may not. Because you think about it, one of the big skills that is going to become in demand is that a lot of traditional careers, because of, let's say, what has happened in the pandemic, certain kinds of companies have shut down, but certain kinds of companies have thrived. These are all the companies which have leveraged technology. So technology is going to be a really significant part of it. As one of the guys who created Netscape, the browser, many of you may not know about the Netscape browser, but you see, he often uses a phrase called software is eating the world. So regardless of which job that you are really going to do, it's going to be really something to do with software and technology. So that's probably a good thing to do. But what if you're not interested in technology and all of that? That doesn't interest you. I have good news for you, because, as automation is taking over a number of these things, so things that used to be done by human beings earlier are now actually getting done through technology. Think about it. We don't even look at a calculator as technology. It's just very elementary. We use it. But it's really going to become like that. When technology becomes so powerful and it's everywhere, it becomes invisible to us. So we recognize it only when it's missing. So for example, we take electricity for granted, and the only time we think about it is if it is missing. Then we would really worry about it. So in the same way, technology is really going to become invisible, and it's going to become part of everyone's career. One of the first things, and your careers actually start to move like an S curve, so it sort of starts at the bottom and then has a very sharp rise and then it plateaus out. So many of the careers are in that plateaued stage, whereas there are careers which are actually in that takeoff stage of the S curve. So you are probably going to be, if you're getting into your college or your work zone right now, or you're in the early stage of that, and even if you are not, you've got a couple of decades of experience, it doesn't matter. You really have to really figure out what is the place which is at the beginning of that S curve alone. So, and we'll probably take some questions around how do you discover the S curve. But just to give you some kind of numbers, you look at a scenario like video games. When I was growing up, if you told people that you wanted to play video games, you were always told that, that's really a very silly thing. You must focus on really doing your studies. Even now, a lot of people would sort of look at that. But when you think about it, at any given point of time, when you look at a game like Fortnite, for example, the video game Fortnite, if you don't know it, ask your kids, they will probably tell you what it is and why it is such a craze. At any given point of time, every second of the day, 3 million people online are playing it. And so it's not surprising that when you sort of look at the prize, the game, the finals, the League of Legends was watched by 44 million people. That's more people who watch, let's say, something like Super Bowl, which is in US, the most popular thing. It's 2x of that. And one of the ways to sort of, a lot of times people say, yeah, I mean, that's great, but how do you make money playing video games? The answer is that you are today in that zone where things like this, I mean, people who are professional players of Fortnite, they make an average guaranteed minimum pay of $75,000 per year. And most people, the reasonably good players on an average make $400,000 a year, which is probably more than what many of these professions that otherwise traditionally people used to look at, they pay at all, if pay is one of the things. But second thing I want to talk about is, this is actually a golden time if you're creative. It's a phenomenal time to be looking at a set of opportunities involving creativity. So, you can be a YouTuber, you can become a Instagram celeb, you can be an influencer in some of the things on social media, etc. And each of these things then is going to branch off into specialization. So one of the signs to watch for, what is a trend? So, I said that we are going to talk about what is the trend, how do you figure out where the world is going next, which is the next S curve. One of the trends is as you begin to see specializations happening, those are some of the places where, of medical devices, so, for example, a pacemaker is a, medical device. Or you have pumps in medicine, or you can get your heart to beat a little faster, slower, all of that. Now, when it was being built, the opportunity was to create something, and it was exciting that you could let software become a medical device. So that was the opportunity. But nobody thought that it can be used by bad actors. Now it turns out that security of medical devices is going to become a very big opportunity for people, because hackers suddenly realize that if they want to, leverage that to ransom somebody, get a ransom payment, this becomes one of the ways in which they say, if you don't do it, I'm going to pump more insulin into you. So, so crime created that opportunity. Remember, my first principle was some of the things you can control, some of the things which are outside. But if you understand what is happening outside, it gives you a great opportunity to think of what you could pursue. The second thing that I started to say was turn your hobby into a profession. Just from the point of view of numbers, I mean, the greatest, the most well-subscribed newsletter writer makes about $50,000 per month, just writing newsletters. So the greatest content creator on a platform like Podia, 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 actually makes upwards of 100,000 per month. So if you really think about these kind of numbers are staggering. Of course, it's also true that not everyone is going to make that money, because just because you have a YouTube presence doesn't necessarily mean that people are going to subscribe to it. So you monetize it only once it reaches a certain kind of threshold level and beyond. The third thing that I think you could be looking at is the opportunity to start working with people. The better you are, the more opportunities will come up, because this is, like I said, the previous era where machines were not all that great at doing anything. The knowledge workers seem to have really been at the top of the charts. Whereas now, when you look at what is the next S curve, it's probably going to be people who are very, very good in working in teams, collaborating, especially in scenarios like this, collaborating with people across the world. So if you're good at handling time zones, handling different cultural nuances, understanding people, most importantly, being able to understand emotions. So if you sort of look at it, the ability to shift somebody's emotion could be such a massive business opportunity, which means you're feeling low or a friend of yours is feeling low, and simply by talking to you, that person really starts feeling hopeful and cheerful. Now that can be monetized at scale by just taking that skill across to many people. And today there are hundreds and hundreds of platforms which are coming up, which when you list your skill in that, it creates an opportunity for people to really look at many of these ideas. Final thing that I want to say and then take questions from you is, I think the opportunity lies in being able to build your self-awareness. This is probably the biggest research project that you'll ever do in your life. Being able to understand your own self and understanding other people. I talked about understanding people as a great career opportunity, but success or failure in professions is really about putting yourself in the best possible situation. So career success is personality in the right place. What does that mean? So imagine you take your favorite cricket player, and let's for a minute imagine it's Virat Kohli, and get Virat Kohli to, let's say, become an accountant in your office. Chances are that he may not be the best. He certainly may not be the best accountant ever in the world, while he's probably the best cricketer ever. So those are some of the things that I mean when I say success is your personality in the right place. A person very successful as a doctor may not be really super successful as something else. Michael Jordan was one of the greatest basketball players, and he started to, play baseball at the height of his career. He decided he's going to play baseball. He was never as great at baseball as he was at basketball. Or for that matter, when he became a coach, he was never the celeb coach that he was in basketball. He was undoubtedly one of the greats. Final example, when we stand like this with our hands stretched wide and our feet stretched apart, from top to bottom and from the side to side wingspan, if you measure, we are all, it's an equal length and height. This is true for practically everyone, except for the fact that there is one person in the world for whom these fingers are like 2 inches extra on each side. And when this person decides to become a swimmer, that gives the person a massive advantage. So the person's strength and weaknesses together combine to create a tremendous swimmer. The name of that swimmer is Michael Phelps. So, Michael Phelps discovered his dark chocolate by choosing the field where his strength and weaknesses could together create success. So career is your journey through life. Just to summarize, there are factors which you can control and there are factors which are outside of your control. So you focus on what you can do. But when people tell you, chase your passion, that's another thing that it's a very misleading, it's a misleading piece of advice. Don't change your passion. Don't chase your passion. Why do I say that? Because until your skill level reaches a certain level, you cannot be passionate about something. On day one, you can, banging the car somewhere. But when you think about the time when you become really good at it, you can. But there's another easier way to find out what are you passionate about. anything which you can do day in and day out, day in and day out, without anyone checking, are you doing a good job? Have you worked your way up the proficiency level? So you're a little better today than what you were before. All of that, you get any supervision. Nobody has to remind you. Nobody's going to tell you this is what it is. You insanely get interested in something and you want to chase that, and you can do it day in and day out. So the yardstick, most of the people say, I get bored if I do the same thing again and again. Well, if you're getting bored doing that, there's probably not something you should choose as a profession, because you're going to do it for a very long time. Human beings are living much longer. So today, an average human being is, when India got independence in 1947, our average median age of the country was closer to about 35 years, ballpark. It was a little less than that. But anyway, so that's what it was. Today, it is closer to 70 years. So, people are living longer. And already when a number of countries where actuaries, when they're estimating your life insurance, how long are you going to survive, they're taking more than 100 years as the average number now. Now, maybe in a country like India, it could be a little less, and maybe that number could be 90, 95 years. But think about it, if you're starting your career at 20, you've got 7 decades of work to be done. So you better choose something which you at least enjoy for the next couple of years, but also be prepared to be adaptable and try out what is happening next. So there are new things which are coming up. For example, when Alexa came up, it created the opportunity for people to become Alexa's personality designer. Yes, there is a job like that where for example, when you ask the time, and Alexa can respond in multiple ways. Every voice assistant responds in multiple ways. That is a job, to design the personality. When you say, what time is it? Either you can, Alexa can say it is, 9:30, or Alexa, or whichever assistant you use, could actually end up saying, you seem to be really worried about the time. Well, you have 5 minutes more for your next assignment, whatever. I mean, that's something you write and program. So there are people who are doing that. Drones created drone engineers, otherwise there was no such job. When iPhone got created, the smartphone got created, it created the opportunity for app development. Imagine before that, there was no such work as app development. So opportunities will keep coming. You've got to take the S curve. Thank you very much. I'm there on social media. You can just look me up, and I have my newsletter there. And if you enjoy it, I'm going to put some of these things together in the form of a little graphic. That's what I do. I turn complex ideas into a graphic and send it out. So you are welcome to join. Thank you very much. Happy to take any questions if there are. Great.
Okay, so our first question is, considering what you mentioned about career 1.0, 2.0, now 3.0, how do you know whether you have the right skills to pick up a completely different career?
So I think, one of the things I would say is think like a digital nomad. Digital nomads mindset. It's really all about learning what you need to learn, to be able to do that, and choose a variety of things so you can build that muscle. Learning is a muscle that you can build. It's really like doing weights in the gym. It's pretty much learning is really that aspect. You have to stick through that. Remember the driving example. Until you really start to get reasonably good at it, don't decide that I can't do this. You're probably cheating yourself of an opportunity that you would have absolutely adored. So try it out, build your skill, know how to do it well, then decide whether you want to do that, for a long time or not. Also, specializations will emerge. So when I started my career, as I told you, I did, a generalist role in human resources. The job that I eventually did at the last phase of my employment, which was, to become the chief learning officer, that job didn't exist. So, I moved into a role. So I defined the role for myself in terms of what I think would add value to the organization. So there are different ways in which you can figure that out. But key skill is try to learn many different things, and don't limit yourself and say, okay, I'm an engineer, I can't be doing this, or I'm into math, I'm into literature, I don't think I can learn, coding. Those are myths. Those existed in the previous world. In the digital world, it doesn't work like that. So there are millions of opportunities.
So our next question is coming from someone who's 50 plus and would like to figure out what are the career opportunities available to her.
So, it's a little tough for me to sort of say that upfront without knowing what is the background, what are the kind of things the person has done, what do you enjoy doing, and sort of really this whole process of discovering your career, and that it sort of really helps to work with a coach to sort of uncover that, because sometimes there are things that have been there on the sideline, and there are huge opportunities for something like that. So maybe 10 years back, if you told me that you could do podcasting as a career, but I couldn't have chosen that because podcasting didn't exist. The platforms didn't exist. The opportunity to monetize it didn't exist. The opportunity to have that thing where it is on everyone's smartphone didn't exist. So, once you discover what are the ways in which you can create value for somebody else, I have a very simple thing. Teaching is never going to go out of fashion. So people who can simplify complexity, and I'm going to just make a wild guess and say that you must know something that you can teach. Teaching is a massive opportunity that's going to be there because, first of all, look at the fact that online learning is really going to be it. And how many people have struggled? Teachers who've worked in traditional environments have struggled. So the opportunity to tell somebody, here is what you can do in a simplified manner is going to be a opportunity that's going to be there forever. So good tutors are much in demand. I mean, so there are a whole lot of centers which actually work on that assumption. There are loads of platforms which can do that. So, but this is, of course, assuming the person can teach something. Suppose it's not that. Happy to have a chat and sort of do that conversation about how do you discover your true calling and passion.
So the next question is a bit too constraining, but I'm just going to say to you,
Sure.
Which college subjects would you recommend for being an entrepreneur?
Oh, that's interesting. Let me give you a couple of data points. There are entrepreneurship is more about a mindset rather than necessarily a qualification. But then most of the times it helps to have domain knowledge, which means if I'm going to do something, let's say if it involved coding, I'm probably going to be a bad entrepreneur because that's not something that I know. I wouldn't do it in accounting, some startup pertaining to making accounting automated. I'm probably not going to be good at it. So I need to do what I am good at, really understanding a customer. So an entrepreneur must really understand where is that need. So you need to be able to do that, turn that into a product, get it to the market, find the investors, attract talent. It's many different skills. So many a times, if you sort of see the average age, while there are lots and lots of startups, the book that I'm doing is called Dreamers and Unicorns, that actually talks about dreamers being these startups. Most of them do not scale up to become unicorns. The reason for that is that the average successful entrepreneur, when you see the studies, the average successful entrepreneur is closer to 40 in age. Mark Zuckerberg is an exception. So I know, your first reaction is, well, what about Mark Zuckerberg? Yeah, exceptions define your opportunities, and maybe you're that exception. So in which case, just ignore what I just said. But for most people, the median rule is that you build soft skills. So your opportunity to deal with people. So what does soft skills mean? Your ability to communicate in a precise manner, your ability to collaborate with people, your ability to take feedback and take no for an answer. You've got to be really good at that if you have to succeed as an entrepreneur, because when you go to raise funds, believe me, you knock hundreds of doors and get hundreds of rejections. So if you're a person who gets dejected saying, oh, I went there and it's such a great product, the guy didn't even look at me, well, then maybe it's going to be tough. You build more resilience before you launch your own company. So entrepreneurship is more about the mindset rather than any college course. There are people from all kinds of streams, from engineering to accounting and literature and all kinds of things. So if you look at, so to give you a couple of quick examples, I mean, Airbnb has designers as, the people who started that. I mean, it used, until the pandemic hit, it would have been a third business. So there are all kinds of people with all kinds of backgrounds. It's a mindset.
So on the lines of picking up new skills, some of the authentic resources, I'm going to expand that to.
So technique of picking up new skills would be to choose a variety of ways in which you can learn some stuff. I mean, for example, some people learn, take a mix. So one of the ways to sort of look at it is a portfolio of skills. So, when you celebrate Diwali, you put a bunch of those little crackers in a row and then you light up maybe 4 or 5 of them. And then, one of them really starts off well, but fizzles out. 2 of them don't light up at all. And then there is one which sort of really goes up, shoots up into the air and lights up the entire sky. So, your career is going to be about a portfolio of skills at any given point of time. So the more of a portfolio of skills that you can bring, combinations of those are really going to be creating opportunities. So one way of looking at it is, if you were in medicine a couple of years back, so there was like general surgery and then there was X-ray and a couple of other things. Now, when you go to a hospital, you begin to see a lot more of specializations. So you'll see orthodontics, maxillofacial surgery. It's not just dentistry. So there are these little sort of oncology, neonatal oncology. So there are these specializations happening. A field which is growing is going to see specializations. That's probably another good indicator to sort of see that maybe you didn't quite. So like, as I said, I picked up, human resources and moved into specifically the talent management part of it, specifically moved into learning and development. Within that, I sort of, look at a combination of multiple things that I can do. Because the core skill that is underlying all of what I did is the ability to simplify something and put that across to people, at scale. That's something I enjoy doing. So when you understand that's the core skill, then it can fit into multiple opportunities, So discovering your core DNA is probably the first fundamental thing to look for when you're looking at your career choices. So learn from podcasts. There are TED Talks. There are, zillions of magazines of all kinds which are available for free. Reading is a great habit to build because, if you don't read, I mean, Bill Gates reads 50 books a year, so a book a week on an average. So unless there's no reason why you attempt to do a couple more. Have an idea about opportunities. So building the reading habit, and in my particular case, I find writing to be supremely helpful because it refines a lot of what I talk about. So before I sort of started to talk about this, I spent the day looking at multiple drafts of how I would structure my talk. So yesterday I sort of therefore talked about discovering your dark chocolate, and that's the graphic that I made. So I've actually used all my skills of writing, thinking aloud, visual thinking, my experience, and put that into what I'm doing. So it's always a combination. So you've got to keep trying new things and experimenting, and don't get phased out by failures. That's part of life. I mean, remember, not every one of those 5 hours is going to light up the sky. It's probably going to be one out of those 5. Venture capitalists, when they invest, they sometimes invest in 10 to 20, startups, and only one of them gives them a great return. And that one, if it is a Facebook or a Google, you sort of, made money for a couple of generations to come. So, it's really that being constantly able to juggle your portfolio of skills like a venture capitalist. So that's how you would, look at what you enjoy learning the most.
So you mentioned that the S-curves are changing and you have to latch on to the latest S-curves. So what are some of the opportunities that have arisen thanks to COVID?
So if you think about all the, businesses which, so there are a couple of different ways in which you identify an S-curve or an opportunity. So let's start with the opportunities. So for example, when people are not able to sort of go out and communicate in the normal way, it means some of the functions are going to get reinvented. I mean, so some sectors are going to get reinvented. For example, teaching. Teaching has moved online Now, whether even after it opens up, I think it will continue to be a far bigger hybrid model. But what has happened is people have simply taken the content online. What they were teaching in a classroom, they're simply talking to a camera and sort of doing that. That's probably not the best use of this medium. So I keep experimenting. One of the things I thought was that if I start to use slides, I have learned that online when you're doing it, slides are not very effective. So, people lose interest because, I'm speaking through my slides, I'm reading it, you're reading it, you can read it faster than I can speak it out. So there is going to be a time difference and you will lose the audience. B, today entertainment is, just a phone away. You can just, while you're watching something on one screen, you can, be watching Netflix on the other, which a lot of kids do. And therefore it is really impossible for somebody to really figure out, the teacher can't make out whether the people are learning or they aren't learning. So education itself, there's a great opportunity for it to be reimagined for this new purpose. 3, look at what the people are cribbing about when they can't get into a college. And the people are, they're saying that we are missing out on the experience. What does it mean? Experience is a huge business opportunity in every field. That, people are not worried about getting the content on Zoom. So that people say that we can get even on YouTube. There are plenty of free videos. So why are they cribbing about not being able to go to college? Because they're talking about college as an experience. If you're looking at college as an experience, I think there is a huge opportunity to design that. And it can happen in multiple ways. Look at the fact that, today Google has announced a course which you can do in approximately $50. And it takes 4 months to do. And there are 3 or 4 of them, which are there. UX design is one of them. And then project management is another. I mean, there are various things like this. They say we will consider it to be equivalent to an undergraduate degree, which means traditionally people are spending 4 years. They are doing it in 4 months and getting potentially a job in Google. Isn't that a far more, bigger competitive threat to education? So in each of the places, if people are not able to go out and shop, there are these people who are doing delivery of these services, that they will, pick up something from somewhere and give it to people. Now that's a delivery is an opportunity, last mile delivery. It's very complicated to run that business, but then this is an opportunity that people are doing. So there are opportunities everywhere. Every pain point, every time you find something irritating, annoying, being unhappy, that's a business opportunity. So you can automate it, you can expand it, you can leverage people doing it. There are multiple ways to think about business models, but that's probably for another conversation. But yes, there are many opportunities possible.
So we have around 12 to 30 minutes left. So let's try to get as many questions in as possible. So our next question is, what is the importance of humanities in future jobs?
Phenomenal. The reason why, humanities is going to really be big. And when we look at many a times when we think about career options and subjects, we are guided by what has happened in the past and, where the opportunities are plenty, which means you're already at the top of that S-curve in that particular area. Whereas humanities has always been, right now, if you sort of look at it, it's probably just in the takeoff phase of that S-curve. So the reason why humanities is going to be great is because a lot of things in the world today, allow you to deal with ambiguity. Humanities teaches you all of that there is no one answer. When you read literature, there isn't one answer. When you say 2 plus 2, it's 4 in India, it's 4 in US, it's 4 in Africa. It's a convergent thinking process. But humanities also teaches you that there are many things which are interlinked. It's complex. There's not just one answer. There are multiple things. For each one, there is a payoff. There is a price that you pay. For example, if you choose one particular career versus another, you are not only taking this particular path, there is what is called an opportunity cost, that you are leaving something else behind. Yeah. So humanities actually teaches you how to do that. In many of these places, in the most high-tech companies, I mean, so for example, there are, it's far more competitive for a techie to get into an Amazon or a Google kind of a place than for a humanities guy to get a job in one of these big digital companies. The reason is there aren't that many people who are applying for those kind of jobs because everybody thinks that's a techie job. Whereas if you look at many of these jobs which are created, they are a hybrid job. What is the core skill? The soft skills, like I mentioned, it means working together with multiple disciplines. So you got to work with an anthropologist, you got to work with a color designer, you got to work with an artist, you got to work with a voice a narrator, multiple jobs. And then all of them put together, they work on a deadline. So you've got to be really good at working together. And that's the kind of opportunity which is coming up. So these are opportunities which didn't exist even, a couple of years back. Few years back, there was no such thing called drone engineer. But today there is. Hologram character designer didn't exist because VR and AR, augmented reality and virtual reality, was nascent. But this is the beginning of the S-curve. Now, those glasses are clunky. They don't look cool. But it's going to become really slick. It's going to be like wearing glasses. So it's not going to be very different. So the opportunities that are coming up in, let us say, VR or AR, augmented reality, virtual reality, and all those sidelines which will crop up. Remember that dentistry then finally branched off into many of those little side specializations. Those kind of things will happen. So there are S-curves happening everywhere. Pick one technology. I mean, 3D printing started off with something. So let's imagine, by the way, the first thing that, when people who are designing 3D printing, they thought people are going to use it to print spare parts. The first thing that got printed was a gun, and that sort of gives rise to crime, which is pertaining to 3D, and how do you stop it becomes a career option. So there are all kinds of things. If you just sit down and plot out, your mind will completely explode with the amazing world that we are living in. We are in a hyper-connected world, and that in itself is going to throw open a huge number of opportunities. So this is a terrific time. Career 3.0 was unthinkable even a few years back. I mean, that you can actually do 5 different things all on the same day for 5 different employers. So which means, in effect, it turns out that I'm saying, if you can't find a job, can you find 10 jobs? And, together it's going to probably, and you are going to, most people who work in the creative fields who are monetizing creativity are actually people who are doing it not just for financial reasons, but for the fact that, it gives you 3 different things: autonomy, mastery, and purpose, that it gives you freedom for you to choose. It gives you something to become good at, learning agility, which I talked about a little while, that, they enjoy learning new things. And then, you enjoy, solving a problem for somebody else. That's purpose. So a combination of these 3 is certainly possible today with creative fields. Even 2-3 years back, it was hard for people to monetize it. Today, with the the connected technology which is coming up, the multiple platforms that are there are at least 50 different platforms which allow you to monetize anything and everything, from fitness classes that you can offer, to teaching people theater. All kinds of things are possible. So there's a site which lets people get birthday wishes from their favorite celebrity, and of course you pay for it. But if, let's say, some particular actor, Amitabh Bachchan is your favorite actor, then you can get wished by Amitabh Bachchan on video, which you can post all over the countryside on that for a fee. You could do that. I mean, there are incredible opportunities. Who would have thought that it could be done? Telling somebody that you are a YouTuber. I mean, the amount of, if you look at the youngest YouTuber, the second highest earning YouTuber is 8 years old. Yeah, Ryan reviews toys. Or what does he do? He just reviews toys. He looks at the toys and says, "This is good, I enjoy playing with it, it's not that great." And he makes millions. He made 22 million last year. So I think the opportunities are for a different time and space. Constrained by the, say, that chartered accountant. When I was growing up, those were the only 4 options. You had to choose one of them. And it was like a real challenge. So when I told people I want to do economics, people said, "What the hell are you going to do? Who's going to employ you?" So, so those are the kind of things that have all gone away. I mean, telling somebody I want to be a Fortnite player, I mean, you're probably going to start off, if the average salary there, if you're halfway good, with a 400,000, which a lot of CEOs don't make that kind of money. So I think it's a very different world now. Don't get constrained by the past. because it's a different set of rules.
So our next question has been covered during your talk, but it is how to identify your strengths and weaknesses.
Yeah, no, I think it's a somewhat different question. You identify your strengths and weaknesses from, writing a journal. I found to be fantastically helpful. That's how I sort of, learned to do different things. I used to do plain vanilla journaling. Then I started to add doodles. Then that became, these sketch notes that I'm talking about, which is sort of mentioned here, on the side. That's the place. So these all have evolved over time. But your strengths is one thing, but I think getting feedback about your weaknesses and addressing that. So a lot of people talk about strength-based coaching. I'm not going to tell you what you're not good at. Focus only on what you're good at. Well, it doesn't work like that, because when you're driving a car, I can say that you're a fantastic driver, but until I tell you that your vision is not that great, you're probably going to kill somebody while driving. So in career, being aware of where your strengths and weaknesses are there. Ask people, they'll give you feedback. If you don't sort of immediately start justifying and say, and successes, people ascribe all the success to themselves. If it didn't happen because that guy didn't let me do it, or the circumstances were that, or it was bad luck. So all failures are put, successes are taken in. That's just a terrible way to do it. So humility is probably going to be one of the ways in which people who learn things are the ones who say, I don't know. I mean, yeah, I should have known about this, with my years of experience, I don't. So when you find people who are really like that, those are the guys who are continuously learning, because they don't have a need to tell people, oh, don't worry, I know about this. Yeah, don't tell me. And if it is not something I don't know, then I'm not interested. Then those people don't really learn. So it needs a lot of humility. It needs a lot of courage. It's a weird combination, but that's how it is. So staying curious helps you to learn different things about your own strengths and weaknesses. B, I think having a very diverse set of friends, very diverse, from different socio-economic backgrounds, different language backgrounds, different educational backgrounds. It builds the ability to look at the world through many different lenses. So that's really the opportunity to strengths and weaknesses.
So the next question is building on what you just mentioned of dealing with failure. You mentioned courage. What are some of the other methods and techniques to use to learn and conquer failure?
So I think it's my belief is it's infinitely tougher for people who are successful to deal with failure. So one of the things that if you flunked in a particular class, chances are that you're going to be a lot more open if somebody says, here is what you can do to improve. But if you've always topped and somebody says, here is what you can do better, you're probably going to be a little less open than that. So I think dealing with the ability to bounce back, one of the ways to do it is to maintain a gratitude journal, to write down every single day. As I told you, I'm going to come back to those things about seeking feedback and writing, two of the most powerful ways in which you can really develop yourself disproportionately faster. In life, one of the ways to sort of understand it is the power of compounding any habit. So if you read one book, let's imagine a month, and you read 12 books a month, it's just phenomenal how much you can sort of pick up in a year's time. If you read for an hour a day, go back and do the math and say, how many days worth of reading would you have done at the end of 1 year? And if you do that over 70 years, I mean, it's a disproportionate advantage you will create if you build the habit of reading and writing. So thinking about all the good things that are there helps you to remain positive, because it's just so infinitely easy to say, oh my God, this is a problem, this didn't work out, that didn't work out. For many people, your worst day, they would happily change because it's better than their best day. So I think just being aware of that, I mean, just that gratitude journal is a phenomenal way in which it's helped me to sort of think that, I've got many more things to be grateful about.
What, according to you, are some skills everyone must learn, irrespective of the field they are working in?
Just one thing, which is to how do you sort of continuously reinvent yourself, which is a combination of many other sub skills. But how do you reinvent yourself, which means being able to look at what is happening out there, preparing yourself for that, and then actually doing something completely different on a continuous basis, because that challenges you to become like a novice every time. So if you are able to stop being an expert and be a novice more often than being an expert, I think it just helps you to get many more opportunities, because you'll be open to trying out many more things. So the ability to do that, I think, is at the heart of it.
Looking backwards in your career, is there a decision that you would like to change now, and something that can be a learning for all of us?
No, I mean, as I said, there are factors within your control. I obviously, I sort of, and many of them, the positive side of it actually comes back much later in life. I mean, I think when I, did all the different extracurriculars that I did in college, whether it was writing or drawing or speaking or theater and all that, I mean, at that point of time, it took away from, let's say my grades. They weren't as good as what I would, have wanted at that point of time. Eventually, I think it built in me the confidence to do other things. So I got the benefit of that. If I had studied and got better grades, I would have got the benefit of something like that. If I had done something else, let's say started my own business, 30 years back, I would have got the benefit of that. So I think, that's not a philosophy I believe in greatly, because, that's what it is. I mean, life is what it is. I have done some, reasonably okay decisions and plenty of really dumb decisions. But eventually, your life is a balance sheet. It can't be run in a mechanical way. And the advice that works for somebody else. So I'm not a great believer in this motivational talks, because eventually all your motivation is within. Because if you understand yourself, so self-awareness, I think, is the greatest gift that you can give to yourself, is the biggest research project you'll ever do in your life. And I wish I had built opportunities to do that much earlier than what I did, in a structured way. I mean, yeah, a lot of people say you're not good at this or you're good at this. That doesn't count. But you really need to understand this is how it shapes up into other things. I wish I had done a little more of that a little early, but no, otherwise I think life is what it is.
So our last question for today is a more constraining question again. Would skills such as project management continue to exist, especially in the age of virtual teams and remote working?
Project management as a skill would probably exist, except for the fact that it's going to get automated. Because anything which can be done logically. So what will get automated? Three criteria. One is it is rules-based. If this, then that. So then if it's rule-based, certainly 100%. If it is not being done now, it will get automated shortly. Two, it is done at scale. So that means it can be repeated, which is your third criteria. So if you take the combination of this, it's rule-based, it's repeatable, and it's at scale. It's an opportunity for somebody to write a algorithm and do it. I mean, think about recommending a movie on Netflix. It's not done by human beings at all, and the accuracy with which they can do it is pretty phenomenal. But you have to really start creating a wide variety of choices for yourself. So don't just go by what the algorithm is recommending. Talk to people and say, what are some of the movies you would recommend? And then watch those. So then the machine learns that, okay, you are open to a wide variety of things. Otherwise, you choose comedy on 3 different occasions, it continues to show you comedy for the rest of your life. That's the challenge of all algorithm-based things, that, they completely kill your ability to have diversity. So, I will routinely, in everything in my life, I will ignore the rule and just do, so it's the algorithm. I'll, look at different language films and different, it's all there. You just have to ask for it and train the algorithm to do what you want it to do, rather than do what it thinks you should be doing. So I'm a believer that it should be humans who run, algorithms, and not the other way around. Algorithms shouldn't be running humans. They should run machines, which is fine, but not humans. Because things like judgment are essentially what makes us human. Just imagine that somebody who, if algorithm were to say that you cannot cross the traffic light, and today you are in a scenario, you suddenly get a phone call that you need to be somewhere in a rush, and you jump that traffic light, you get stopped. But a human being, when you explain, is going to understand that you need to go. Or a doctor who's sitting in your car, it's a regular car, not marked with a doctor sign. The human being will be able to make that distinction, not an algorithm. So I think we need to, algorithms are nice, but I'm going to treat it, only with that much of, so I have a little bit of a contempt for that, because it tends to take away the core of what makes us human.
So with that, I think we should conclude today's session. On behalf of all our viewers, we would like to thank you, Mr. Abhijit Bhaduri, for taking out your time to speak to us all.
Thank you very much.
Viewers. Thank you all viewers for joining in today. Just a quick reminder, our next session is next Sunday at 9 p.m. with Mr. Vipin Jain, who's an American entrepreneur on robotics.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Shiv. Thank you very much for all the listeners for being there. And I hope you find something of value. Happy to take any questions. You can email me or find me on social media and just do that. Look forward to being in touch with you. Good luck with your career. It's a journey through life. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.